I'm just going to do a little introduction. I'm here with Tammy Walker. She's going to explain to me our new dashboards that are going to be available to us next year.
Okay. The dashboards have several tabs that you can work with. That you can work with, just a general overview, and that's going to show all your attendance and discipline. And it shows your performance summary, state assessments. These are just, like 1 of 10 metrics met goal and 1 metric met. This is just kind of an overview. If you go more specific, you can go to district information, and that gives you, bless you. District information gives you the demographics of all your stuff. It tells you percentages of your demographics, male to female, Hispanic to white.
Okay. And that's not something that's been available to us online before?
No,
Okay,
and more than likely for teachers, actual teachers, they won't have access to this right here. They'll more than likely just have access to the students part of it.
Okay.
You can go into the students and pick, like myself, I can pick whether I want to go look at a high school kid or an elementary kiddo.
Okay.
And if I go into the high school, it's loading, and it brings me up every student alphabetically. I can look at that student.
And all of their information is currently in there right now?
All of their
It's not-
information.
Okay.
Here is his assessments with the new assessment rating. Some of those were brought up.
Right. And so there's different colors I see. Is that?
Yes. This is like the last 4 weeks class absence. If it's in the red, obviously, I'm pretty sure that's probably not good because she's got a 16.1% absence ratio for the last 4 weeks.
Right. Okay.
So in the red is not good.
And then over on the assessment scores, it's also
The red
The red
indicates that
indicates-
they probably were not successful on that particular
Okay, that's
that
helpful.
particular star. And I think you can actually let's see. Let's click on this one right here. Let's click on a student, and it kind of broadens the horizon. It goes much more into detail
okay.
when you look at the child, because you can look at, just for this particular student, you can look at his demographic information, his academic dashboard, but you can look at his transcript, his attendance, his state assessments, local assessments, his grades and credits.
And so the local assessments being benchmarks, or the local assessments being report card grades, or
It would normally be benchmarks. We're not to that point yet to get the benchmarks to coincide with that can be brought in, like the EOCs, because changing companies this year, we were all at a loss as to how we could pull in the assessments this year with the new company. I've just gotten documentation on how to pull that in now, so we know that we can get the star in. But most benchmarks are done from old test,
right.
from previous tests given. So now they're trying to come up with a system to allow the benchmarks kind of to be on the basis of the EOCs, to where we can pull those in as well. But you have to use a specific benchmark that will work with the program. So they're not to that point yet where the local assessments are going to be up there.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can see it's all blank.
Yeah, and my concern was, in the elementary we have that Renaissance program where we can send them in and they can take a 20-minute test, and then we can see which objectives they're needing. But y'all don't have anything like that in secondary, where
Not
it
in
shows
secondary.
you how their growth or their decline or
No.
flatline or okay.
No, we don't have that. We don't have that right now, and that's what they're trying to do with the local assessment. They're trying to get a across-the-board benchmark to work with that particular company, kind of like y'all have, that we can pull in and see where they're at and what
Right.
they need and what they need
that's,
more of.
Yeah, that's really beneficial.
But when you click on this kiddo, if you look at his attendance, it's going to show you the last 4 weeks, last 8 weeks, year to date. It shows the days absent, how many. And when you click on the More button, you can go by grading period, you can go historical. So it's got a lot of good features, because as a superintendent, he wants to be able to click on one kid. If he's interested in one kid for some reason, he can click on him and he can go right through. Now he can just go to the actual ISD board dashboard and pull up the overall consensus of how many were successful on this test,
Right.
and this test, and how many were not successful.
Right.
And get an overall average.
Yeah, that's
But he can
really
also
great.
pull it per student and look at the actual individual student, you know, if need be. And this is more of what teachers would want this end of it. They're going to want the student end of it just so that they can pull that kiddo up and look at his state assessments. We'll go to his state assessment tab, and it tells you right here. And if you click more, you can go to the reporting categories, and it loads the objectives, and it gives the value of the objectives.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So, and it tells you, you know, what level his, you know, where he was at.
Can you also do this by class? By I mean, I know that might be a little more complicated in the secondary because they take different levels of class, but as the lower grades, could you pull it up as a 6th grade class or 5th grade class to see, just like we would get the score, that's how we get it. We get it
Right,
summarized on a
right.
piece of paper, but can you do it that way?
I believe you can. We would have to go back and look at the class list on the original. Let's go back to here and see. Where I wanted to go.
You may have to answer that. Might have found Ricky.
Yes, sir. What do you mean? I haven't heard of any alternative schedule, so I don't really know. You might ask Miss Henderson, because there's only about 50 kids gone. Oh, well, you've got him for all day. Well, yeah. We'll just leave it. We'll just leave it for all day, and if you come back, and if you're back before we'll have to pay him for half a day regardless. If he wants to leave, we can pay him for half a day. We won't need coverage though. I don't even know who's going, but whoever's left here will cover the rest of them. There's only 50 something going, and there's only 139 total, so there'll only be like 70 or 80 kids here. And there's not that many staff going. All right. No, didn't as many qualify. Okay. Bye bye. Okay. Let's look at campus list. So I don't think that this is going to do. Okay, now there is a.
Students by level, is that?
There is a. Let's back up.
No, it's not at this time anyway. It doesn't look like.
No, but you can actually. I have to. We went over this so long ago that it's kind of vague to me. But there is actually a way with this dashboard that, and they were showing us. But like I said, the workshop that I went to on the dashboard was early last year. But there is a way to go in on, and you make yourself your list, and you put those kids that are at risk for failure or that have failed before. And you can make your own group, and you set the standards where you want the standards to be to see, and it shows you their TEKS and everything.
Well,
But I'd have to get more. I'm going to have to go back to another workshop on it because it's a very detailed.
well, and my question, I guess, is it's always kind of a need to know, and so if we're given access to that and there's not a level, then would we have access to everybody's scores, which is not a horrible problem, but it does open up you to have more information than you might need.
Well, but
So-
in all fairness, if the scores were opened up just to elementary, and you're a 6th grade teacher and you want to, you're just looking around, you would want to know that 3rd grade level. Say you were looking at the 3rd graders coming up, you would want to see where their progression has been from 3rd and 4th and 5th before they got to you. You would have that opportunity to go in and look at those kids prior to the year that you're going to get them and say, hey, you know what, I really need, these are the kids that I'm going to have to focus on just because progression hasn't been there. They're leveled
Right.
out. They're below minimum every year or
Right.
whatever.
And I can understand maybe the level before and the level above even, but to have it I'm just asking. I mean, I feel like I'm credible and could be trusted with the
Yeah.
information. I just don't think that we always have that information. So
And you probably have not always had that information, but I'm to my knowledge, if you're given elementary rights to this, and I'll have, again, the rights, where the rights are split up is a little vague because it's just been so long with the dashboards, and they were, I think once that Region 11 or the state gets everyone on board with with the TSDS, with the new submission system for PEIMS, it will flow more so than what it's
Well,
flowing now.
I'm greatly excited. I think that is a tremendous.
It's kind of
Neat
bits and
thing
pieces
for
right now, the
Crawford.
dashboard is, because you actually do not have to purchase rights to the dashboard to do your PEIM submissions through the new dashboards. A lot of people will not pay for the actual dashboard service because they don't think they'll use it. I felt like ours would use it because I know it's Mr. Holt, our superintendent, is always one that really wants to see. He wants to see the kids. He wants to put a name with a face.
Right.
Which I have all the data ready to put the pictures on the kids. I never just TEA or Region 11 got tied up, and I did never get the instruction on how to load those into to where it
Right.
would attach them
So
to
we
those
will
students.
have a picture as well.
Eventually,
And-
y'all will have a picture. Yes.
And I saw on there that there was also discipline, and
Mm-hmm.
so will that be tracked on there as well? I mean, do you know yet?
Discipline for us, for what we use discipline for, unless we had, like the larger schools and had a discipline clerk, they would put every incident in the system. Because no bigger than we are, we actually use the, basically for what has to be reported.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think Mr. Corzine some last year with Christie used, I think he probably put more in than just what was reported to PEIMS.
He's probably trying to track for Leader and me, though.
He could have been tracking for that. I have not, because of course I have not gotten anything this year to do any tracking. The only discipline I've got is what has to be reported. So.
And so what categories have to be reported?
Anytime a student's not in a classroom, it has to be reported to the state. Anytime that child was removed from the class.
Okay.
So any ISS, OSS, if they've gone to DAEP, if they've been suspended, those type things have to be reported. That's the only thing. If you just sent your student to Mr. Corzine for discipline reasons, and he talked to him and he sent him back, or even he kept him for 45 minutes the rest of that class period, that doesn't constitute a report to the
What if he
state of
sends them
Texas.
home?
If he sends them home, it is.
Okay.
It should be, because it should be a suspension
Okay.
for the rest of the day. And they can have a half a day DAEP or a half a day suspension. They can do a half a day.
Okay.
So,
Grace.
but the dashboards are really, I think they're going to be very beneficial. Like you said, with the discipline, and that's the only thing with that part is that's all you're not going to get the daily stuff.
Right. Right. But that's helpful when you're,
Yeah.
especially if you don't know a student, to pull it
Yes.
up. What about the goal planning tab? Can you tell me anything about that?
Let's see if that could be one of the other little perks to this program. If it ever pulls up. Is that they can go in and set the goals, the new district goal, and then they have their current district goal,
Okay.
and
And
you
so there's
see, and you try
attendance, and then
right, and you can
okay.
tell that this right here is obviously not at the goal that was set. 'Cause
Right.
That was the goal set, but I mean, that's where Mr. Holt wants to see it every day.
But lower down further than that, I see discipline. Is there anything other than attendance and discipline goals? I'm
no.
just curious.
I don't think there's anything
Okay.
besides the goal. Mainly,
it.
they use this mainly for the attendance more than they do anything, obviously,
Right. Right.
because you're not going to have that much. But the attendance is a good thing because, like I said, our goal is set at 95, and obviously this campus has not reached that. Or this is the ISD as a whole has not reached that goal.
Yeah. Okay. We started off strong.
Yes, we did. We just didn't go well after that.
Yeah.
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 And attendance has been an issue this year, has been a big issue this year. Let's see, we're still in the ISD. I don't think there was a whole lot left. This is kind of a good tab for the superintendent to grade